So I have a couple things I just like to say about Frances. One is that my senior year in '66, I was not in her class. I wanted to be. And I was disappointed that I did not get chosen in her class. I had been in sort of the better classes all along, and a lot of my buddies were in her class, and I didn't get there. So after our SATs came out, I had decent SAT scores, and I thought, you know, I should be in that darn class. So I went to see, his name came up a moment ago, Mr. Marsilio.
Yep.
And I said, I'd really like to be in Mr. Meginnis' class. And he said, well, we might be able to work that out. Talk it up with her. So I went to see Mrs. Meginnis, and she was just as nice as she could be. Actually, I was very nervous, of course. And she said, yeah, we could do that. So I was the person who lobbied to get into her class. It was October by the time we got there. By the time I got there, and I remember we were in the middle of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern. That was the project. I had to learn that very quickly and get up to speed. I sat in the front of the room, over by the windows. You maybe caught it up what the classroom was when you were there, but there was a bookcase there. So whenever there was any books or anything, I was close to the windows. When the windows needed to be opened or closed, or books needed to be collected or distributed, I was the first guy on my feet. And because I was the guy that had lobbied to get into her class, and I was a helper, and she was easy on me. But she wasn't easy on everybody. And the one phrase, I remember the phrase I had a classmate, and I think part of her deal was that she had all of these exceptional people who had been told all of their academic lives that they were exceptional. She took it upon herself to deflate those egos. There was a class that I kind of wish he was here. I thought he might be here. Dan Fromm, who wrote something. I remember her very well. She had written this on his paper, and she didn't broadcast these things, but for some reason it came up in conversation in the class, and he actually read it. And what it said was, she said that his style had something to do with water buffaloes pulling the Queen Mary through a swamp. So years went by. For a while, I wrote commentaries for National Public Radio for All Things Considered, and I ran into Frances quite by chance 30 years after I left house in high school. And I wrote a piece about it for All Things Considered, and so I have it. In fact, when this came up, I thought, I started to write something, and I went, I think I already did. And I went digging around, and I found it, so here it is.
Good. Read it for us, please.
One day I turned a corner, and there was Mrs. Meginnis, my high school English teacher. I hadn't seen her in over 30 years. I remember her as a teacher who was scary in a good way, always pushing us hard. She wielded her red pen over our papers like a dentist's pick probing for decay. When she found a soft spot, she jabbed it with circles and marks and the sharply painful awk. That A-W-K in the margin meant awkward. I spent much of that year not only writing awk, but being awk. Now, 30 years later, we renewed our acquaintance and soon got together for lunch. I was a little nervous. She was, after all, Mrs. Meginnis. She started by asking if I had read the editorial page that day in the New York Times. Yeah. I hadn't. Too bad, she said, because Maureen Dowd quoted a famous poet in her column today. She recited the lines from memory. Certainly you recognize that, she said. Well, no, I replied. By a well-known Brit, she hinted. Late 19th century, somewhat flamboyant. I guess that gives it away. Oscar Wilde, I guess? No, Dick, it was Kipling. Oh, yes, of course, I said, as if I knew, but had just forgotten. The conversation wandered to last year's National Book Award winner. I didn't know that either. Nor the author. Hadn't read it. Didn't know about a hot new South African writer. Could not utter a single intelligent sentence on the subject of anything to do with contemporary literature. I was flunking lunch. I think maybe I had shown more promise in class than I was delivering in real life. about my classmates. Somehow, after 30 years, she remembered them all. She glossed quickly over health issues she faced, and for the first time I noticed her frailty. Without sadness or regret, she talked about being in her life's final season. I admired her candor and wondered what strange force had brought me back into her orbit at this point in her life and mine. As I left, she quoted me one more bit of poetry. Finally, something I recognized. I could even name the poet, T.S. Eliot. We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. Frances.